Welcome to episode 4. We're talking about mixing worship for online church services, in particular post-production. One of the things that we juggle with and try to work out is remembering that this audio mix is going to get synced to video. It's for an online church service. And so they're going to be watching the worship team play these songs. Because of that, we try to juggle and we try to balance how much we can get away with in post-production that doesn't look fake when it comes to the video. When it comes to adding instruments, how hard we edit, not in terms of like tuning and timing, but edit in terms of like we took out a mistake. Well, they actually played it in the video. So how many mistakes do I leave? How real do I make it seem? How professional do I make it seem? And we try to find the balance in between those two things. One of the things that I choose to do that seems to be pretty prevalent in a lot of worship tracks and a lot of worship mixes is pads and synths. And these things I would consider kind of free game. Most of the time in a mix, you can get away with some low-key pads, really textury kind of synth lines, and as long as they are not prevalent in your mix, it's not, in my opinion, it's not going to be a problem. I don't think people are going to balk at that. Let me walk you through what I would add to a typical worship mix that is not necessarily there when they recorded it. One of them is very, very simple, hence the name Simple Pad. But there are a lot of different pads and banks and like libraries that you can use. I have this library of ambient pads. They are all drone pads. They are all, 20 minutes long, and they just basically play through. Sometimes it's a 1 and a 5 in the key of the song or in the key that you choose. And there's a little bit of movement to them, but it's a drone pad the whole time. If you are fairly involved in worship and mixing worship and part of modern contemporary worship teams, this is nothing new to you. These have been around for years. But to add it to a mix kind of glues things together. I'll show you what it does in this mix. So I'll start right from the beginning. You can hear the pad. And what I do on the mix is I will ramp up into the song to where the first downbeat of the song is and give myself a couple measures of intro, especially when this is going to get synced to video. You kind of got to make sure your transitions are good, so I give myself a little bit more than I would if I was mixing for an album. So that's the intro of that song, and you can hear that simple pad is right here in the mix, and it literally just goes through the entire mix and fades out at the end with the general fade out for the song, the fade out on my automated fade out on my 2-bus. That has no automation to it. It stays at the same level the entire song, and all it does is just add texture to the song. You can hear it's in. I'll take it out. So it's adding quite a bit, even though it's very subtle and in the background. I'll play the mix and I'll take it in and out, and so you can hear the difference. This is out. That's in. That's out. To me, it adds a lot of feel to the song. I do this on almost every single drone pad that I add to a song. I will put extreme low cut on the lows, all the way up to 170 in this case, but I play with that kind of on every song. And I boost the highs. Here's this pad just by itself with no EQ on it and no low cut. You can see from the RTA, it's taking up a lot of low end, and it's not really giving me that much information on the high end. So I'll boost the highs, you give it a little bit more sparkle, and I'll take out the lows. So it changes the character of the pad, but I don't want it interfering with any of my lows. I don't, especially since it's a drone pad and it's not changing chords, but my bass is changing chords, and really every other, at least rhythm instrument in there is changing chords. I don't want it to interfere with that low end at all. So I just eliminate it. So it's not an issue. The other thing that I do is if you guys have any sort of synth generating VST instrument, like synth instrument or pad instrument, most DAWs come with some sort of native synth that you can get pads from, that you can get synth lines from, and things like that. And again, the whole point of this is for subtle texture and feeling and depth in the song. We're not trying to get lead lines. We're not trying to add something that's going to look fake or feel fake afterwards that people are going to question and say, where is that synth coming from? It's just to bring dynamics and depth to the song. And like we talked about last week, width to the song as well. I use this synth in predominantly bigger songs, more upbeat, bigger songs that fill up a lot of space where there's a full drum kit, electric guitars, because I can hide it a little bit more. And then this synth, I actually play it through. This is called Omnisphere, pretty popular, especially in the worship world. And I actually downloaded a patch bank, a patch library from Peter James, who is from Hillsong. And this is an older patch library, but I use the same thing on like tons of worship mixes, and it's called his String Machine Pad. And the reason why I use it is because I like both ends of the spectrum that it delivers when I use my mod wheel. And I'll show you. If I play this, that's a nice, lush, wide synth. If I bring up my mod wheel, I can get a ton of dynamics in that range. And what I do is I adjust that mod wheel up when it hits a chorus, and I ride it all the way through. I automate that mod wheel all the way through the mix so that when it's hitting a chorus, I get these swells into a much more high-end, bright, shiny synth. And in the low verses or like a down bridge or a down chorus, I can stay in that low, like high cut world of that synth. And I'll show you how it kind of automates all the way through, and I'll show you in the mix as well. And so this is still like in the beginning parts of the song. And so I'm not really getting too bright at this point. I'm still trying to hide it and just bring depth to it. I am changing chords on this synth, so it's different than the drone pad that I just dropped in and kind of just put EQ on. This one's actually changing chords and gets dynamic with the song. This is working into the first chorus. You can hear I'm gradually bringing up that mod wheel. Here it is with the song. And then it goes back into a verse. Brought it back down into that kind of high cut range. And then you'll hear me bring the mod wheel back up into this next chorus. Gradually keeps kind of climaxing into that chorus, and then we have a down bridge, and I'll show you what the synth does in the down bridge. You can see if you're looking at the screen, the outline of what the mod wheel is doing into these choruses. I'm writing it the entire time. And what I do is I play this synth through, I manually play it through, and then I take another take of MIDI information on that same track, and all I do is automate the mod wheel all the way through. So I have two different takes of the song on this same exact MIDI channel with this same exact synth. One is playing it, and one is the mod wheel dynamics all the way through. Here's an example of this final chorus. So just kind of a quick pointer on how to add a little bit more depth and width to your songs by using synths and pads. Not a super in-depth tutorial today, but definitely something that I feel like is needed and almost in every single mix that I do, and adds a lot of dynamics to your song, brings kind of that polished worship feel, brings emotion to the song. And those are the two kind of methods that I use predominantly, and I hope that helps. Next time we're going to get to vocals. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.